to know as much information as we possibly can. The trash can. Another indication that this may not be your calling, but that's quite all right. That's quite all right. But if you do indeed have the gift of cooking, all jokes aside, we are calling all those who desire to be cooks and chef for us to sign up at the Welcome Center that is out in the lobby. And the next slide as well for those who are gifted in other areas that are not in the kitchen. 20 teams for any of our heterosexual couples. We do want to stress that. We ask that you sign up on www.jacksonstreet.org. Lunch and Learn Evangelism Workshop. How to share your faith even if you're busy, scared, or don't know how. Even though COVID and the pandemic has made it a little bit difficult for us to interact with one another, the Great Commission still stands for all of God's people. And so we are encouraging everyone to join us in the Lunch and Learn on March the 12th at 12 p.m. on Zoom as well. And again, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, that is the Zoom ID. And last but not least, we're encouraging all to follow us on all of our social networks. All of our Jackson Street members, we're asking if you haven't already to please follow and like us at Jackson Street, at JSCOC on Facebook as well as Instagram. Like all of the posts that we put up. Share our live streams with your friends on social media. Please help us to reach our goal in 2022 of 10,000 followers. Stand firm, therefore. People who are being influenced, you've been freed from that last system. So the enslaved cannot. This morning, continuing with our Black History Month theme, will be centered around and entitled on the invited to Virginia in 1712 to teach his methods to slave. This book to me. And as I began to read it, my eyes were open to the plight of our people. But also my eyes get lost in the historical injustice alone. The purpose of this sermon is to explain what is happening to us physically in the world right now, while simultaneously explaining what is also happening to us spiritually. Once you understand what is happening to us physically and spiritually, you will see that the solution to both of these problems is identical. So I do ask everyone, if you're able, and I know you are, to take note this morning. It is not my intention to put down any race of people. It is but my intention to encourage us and to inform us of what is happening to us physically as well as spiritually. Because knowledge is power. I realize this is a lot of information and this may be triggering to some. But hang on with me, because there is a method to this madness. As we begin to take note, I'm simply giving you differences are age, color, intelligence, size, gender, social status, and attitude. And envy is always stronger than respect. In other words, if slave owners were in the business of psychology and sociology. The reasoning for this is because unlike any other businessman, their product was not the materials of the earth. The product of the slave master was a human. And so to ensure maximum profit, efficiency, and success, the slave owners had to know their product very well, which was the human being. What made the human and make a slave, so that the master-slave bond can always be easily manipulated. He said that they escaped the plantation. He says the process is similar to training a horse. It's to reduce them from their rightful place, because it is natural for the parent to care for the children and for the children to depend on their parents. So the slave master must break the natural bond in order to generate a new one where the slave produces for the master rather than the family. And the first domino to deconstructing the family unit is removing the father from the home and containing him where he is isolated and working hard, link in the pack. The same. Whatever happens to the down is chapter 22, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. See, parents have a responsibility. You want to know why a child is acting up? You have to check with the parent was in our homes, who provide them even further to be open for anyone to take advantage of. The next step is to take the man out of containment and to use him only for breeding. Sound relevant? Do you believe that our black males have developed the stigma of having children all over the place by accident? It's slave conditioning from before the 1700s. The next thing they say is to train the woman to eat from your hand. She will in turn train the children to eat from your hands too. Can I show you how it's working? Never bite the hand that is a slave motto. Because the thought process is, even though the slave master just backhanded you in your mouth, don't bite that hand, because the same hand that just hit you also provides. Next, I want you to know that Satan also uses the same thing. He wants us to seek satisfaction from his hands. He wants us to hold the idea that whenever I want to be good and holy, I stay with the Lord. But when it's time to have fun on the weekends, I better go over here and mingle with Satan and his ministers of light. Because I can't have fun in the presence of God. So if I want to have me some good fun, I better run over there to Satan and his demons. And you know what happens? In turn, our children learn the exact same thing from us. It's not a coincidence. I understand that the older generations want to push this on us. This is 1712 slave conditioning. This didn't happen with Generation X. The reason it seems like it happened with Generation X is because the exact same things were happening now that were happening in your time. You just weren't aware of it. What happens in this century is that we have the ability to know everything is going on around the world. And we are now knowing, we're catching up to the fact that the exact same thing has been happening since 1712. There's just more media. This generation is not more corrupt. You are just more informed about it. The next step, they said, embarrass the strongest male in front of everybody else. Beat him to the point of death, but don't kill him because that'll ruin your product. Do you think it's a coincidence that they kill us on live television? But for 1712 slave, therefore submit, no longer her hero, but you're on the slave master. Be raised to be mentally weak, but physically. Whenever you hear that the system is not working, that's a lie. It is. The system that is put in place is working like a well-oiled machine. Behind them. All this is supposed to look like. I meant to get you before here, but looks like a son close to you. Swiftly. Oh, come on. Come on, y'all. The longer we stand here, the longer we. Okay, I got to pick somebody. I'll let y'all work that out. Huh? Please, please. That'll be great. That'll be great. That'll work just fine. There we go. Can I get some? Can I get? But physically strong and fearful. Yo, you got a little weight on you. And train this mother to train this one to be exactly like her. Independent of a man, fearful but negotiable. So that I can always get into the family unit through you to continue to enslave you. And once you two die off, better if you guys were. You get the picture. Is take the new male who is mentally weak but physically strong, and the new woman who is independent, negotiable, but fearfully leading him, and create a new breed. And make this the normal family unit. And continue to enslave them because they believe this is normal and not this. And from them, we will now have a new, controllable, easily breedable, and easily enslavable black race. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Once this happens, they say, we make them forget about where they came from. They said if we can break the communication, we can break the people. Then what we will do once we break their communication is we will give them a new language that has restrictions so they cannot communicate with us or each other or understand what is going on. The entire purpose of this is to prevent understanding. And Satan uses the exact same tactics. What he wants to do is cancel our prayer life, cancel our Bible study, and cancel our communication with each other. So he's keeping you from communicating with God, learning about your mission, and also staying in good grace with each other. Satan knows that if he can do this, if he can cancel our understanding, what he can now do is use his tricks and his secret moves easily because we're oblivious to his tactics. There's a saying that says being a fool is one of the basic factors to maintaining a working slave system. If you ever understand what's really going on, they know that they're out of business. And Satan does too. That's why he wants to keep us as ignorant as possible for as long as possible. The author of this book says once this cycle gets moving, which it has been for centuries now, history will forever repeat itself unless a phenomenon occurs. The phenomenon is that the slaves wake up. If the slaves ever realize what's going on, again, they know that they're out of business. But the biggest issue with this is that much like the Galatians in chapter 5, we've been under this system for so long, we don't even know who we are anymore. And our true identity has been hidden in the trauma of slavery. So the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about hidden figures with Brother Jackson. The hidden figure that I want to speak about this morning is you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For the short remainder of this sermon, an hour or so, allow me to reintroduce you to you. I'm about to give you a mirror. The great Dr. Monroe said, it's not what you are that holds you back, but rather see this verse in a whole new light. Remember, this is a mirror. Meet me in 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse number 9. Priesthood, a holy nation, his own light. I need you to know that you're chosen. You're selected as God's best option. You're not a last resort. You're not sloppy leftovers. You are not something that God didn't want. You're not an accident that you think you are and they try to inform us that we are. God didn't make us by mistake. He intentionally chose us. He handpicked us as the best option, and we must realize that we belong here and that God wants us here. But he says not only are you chosen, but you are a chosen generation. A generation is a lineage or group of people who can, through time, trace their existence back to the same source. You ever remember when God would show up and he'd say, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? What God is trying to show us is that even though generations have changed, he does not. He says, I'm the exact same God that was there for Abraham when he was getting frustrated about the promise. And when he tried to maneuver and mess up the plan, I'm the one who still delivered on the promise that he didn't deserve anymore. He says, I'm the same God who was there for Isaac when his own father was about to sacrifice him on an altar by my word. I'm the God who stepped in and said, wait, there's a ram in the bush. He says, I'm also the same God who, when Jacob stole the birthright from his brother and was running away from Esau, he says, I'm the God who protected him. I'm the God who when he was in the middle of nowhere, using a rock as a pillow, I'm the God who showed up in that place and gave him a revelation of who he really was. God is the type of God who travels with us through generations. So together it is a group of people who are chosen in a chosen time, working together for a chosen task that was assigned by our common source. See, generations, but each person was placed in a specific generation to serve themselves to that time period with a specific gift. The question is, will your generation get what you were sent here to give us? Or will you rob us and take it to the grave? Next, he says you are a royal priesthood. Royalty simply means kingship. We're all kings. A king is someone who has power. A king is someone who makes something happen at their word. A king is held in high regard. A king holds their head high. A king dominates. Why do you think in Genesis chapter 1 and verse number 28, God tells us to have dominion? You cannot have dominion if you're not a king. So the very fact that he creates us, spirit, I am a king. Therefore, I will dominate. And I know someone in the crowd is saying, but I'm a woman. A queen is still a king.